Hey fellow Manhwa fans, welcome to Manhwa Odyssey, where today we're delving into the captivating world of raising villains the right way. Ooh, I know you're gonna like this one. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and spread the word to your friends who are into Manhwa. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on the adventure we have in store for you. So, grab your seat and let's dive right in. The story opens with a sweeping view of a grand city beneath the golden sky. A narrator's solemn voice echoes. In 10 years' time, the Federation Kingdom of the East will fall, brought to ruin by the 5 great sins. Inside an elegant office, a man flips through stacks of papers, lost in thought. If I want to prevent that future, he muses, I'll have to become their patron. He sighs heavily, realizing how deep he's gotten himself into this mess. I didn't think this would turn into such a big deal. Regret washes over his face as he questions every life choice that led him here. The scene flashes back. Before this world, our main character had been a burnt-out office worker, a wage slave trapped in endless 78-hour weeks. But one day, he suddenly found himself in a fantasy world, inhabiting the body of a noble. Is this a good thing? Maybe, kind of, he mutters, staring blankly at a book in an unfamiliar language. What the hell does this even say? As he flips the book upside down, a butler nearby dryly comments, "That's because you're holding it the wrong way, young master." Realization hits. "So I'm illiterate and powerless," he groans. Later in the lavish dining hall, the butler announces, "Young master, your meal is ready." Our protagonist, now living the life of a count's son, devours the food in awe. This is amazing, he thinks, savoring every bite. The maid steps forward. "Are you finished? I'll help prepare your bath before bed." He leans back, basking in the comfort of luxury. To live pampered and useless like this is the life. His joy is short-lived when the maid adds, "Please rest early tonight. Young masters Leo Antonio will return tomorrow." Confused, he blurts out, "Who?" The maid frowns. "Your brothers, young masters Leo Antonio Palacio. Why do you sound like you don't know your own family?" That name Palacio makes his heart sink. Why does that sound so familiar? A wave of pain strikes his head. As he collapses, voices echo, "Young master." Water rushes over him, and he suddenly remembers. Wait, am I in psychedelia? The scene shifts to a game screen. Our protagonist, Alan Palacio, recalls the RPG he used to play during rare moments of free time. "In every route," he says, "once the 5 great sins appear, wrath, greed, sloth, pride, and obsession, the entire kingdom falls into ruin. Among those doomed is the infamous Palacio house. Leo Palacio, king of prostitutes, Antonio Palacio, king of drugs. The family was notorious in one of the game's early subquests, long before the main story began." Alan drops to his knees. "You've got to be kidding me, I'm part of that family." His despair deepens when he remembers how quickly the Palacios were destroyed in the game's storyline. "Sure, the quest gave good EXP, but we were the first to die." And now he's Alan Palacio, the extra villain, third son of a doomed noble house. That night, Alan curls up in bed, whispering tearfully, "Please, just send me back to my 78-hour job. I'd rather deal with unpaid overtime than die in 10 years. He groans. "Why did I have to possess a background character with no powers?" Then a thought strikes him. He sits upright. "Wait, if I know the future, doesn't that make me like a prophet?" A spark of hope ignites. "Then I'll just erase the causes of this world's downfall. I'll reform the 5 great sins before they even become monsters." Determined, he declares, "If they're still kids, it should be possible." 2 months later, Alan puts his plan into motion. He saves the children from a human experimentation facility in the East and places the orphanage under the care of a girl named Yusha. Standing beside him is his knight, Evan. Alan smirks. "My eyes don't lie, you're skilled." Evan raises an eyebrow. "That's a compliment, right? Hard to tell with your face." Alan forces a stiff smile. "Of course it is. I look forward to working with you, Evan." The knight sighs. "I don't think I'll ever get used to this version of you." Evan reflects privately. His young master used to wear his emotions plainly, but now he's trying too hard to act composed. Alan mutters to himself, "Feels like my possession stopped at the face." Changing the topic, Evan nods. "Anyway, thank you for the praise, young master." Alan remembers why he hired him. Evan is a rare character in psychedelia, a man who stays loyal and honest even when surrounded by betrayal. You said this was all to save that girl Yusha, right? Evan asks. Yes, Alan replies. Evan frowns. Even as a mercenary, I could tell she's no ordinary child. Why leave her there instead of bringing her here? Alan thinks silently. It might look like I'm abandoning her, but it's part of the plan. Yusha Bludia, a non-human who once forged a pact with an otherworldly being, would grow into the sin of wrath, slaughtering hundreds of thousands. But if she's raised in peace, maybe she'll never become wrath. He clenches his fist, feeling a small victory. One landmine taken care of. To maintain appearances, he clears his throat. It's simply not yet time. Evan hesitates. Not yet time. Exactly, keep it quiet. Make sure they have enough funding. Alan hands him a letter. Give this to Yusha. Evan looks down. Is it important? It's just to reassure her, Alan says. After what she's been through, she deserves that much. As Evan rides off to deliver the letter, Alan gazes out the window. I don't know if it'll really comfort her, but it's worth trying. Unbeknownst to him, the letter carries an ancient incantation, a spell meant to calm non-humans. Meanwhile, we flash to an archbishop in the past, standing before the sin of wrath. Calm thyself, he chants. Agony of the dark, impassivity of the bright belonging to the fall. But his attempt ends in disaster. Wrath rises into the air, her power exploding violently, reducing him to ash. Alan recalls grimly, in the game that spell failed too. He stretches, thinking aloud, maybe this time it won't. Far away, Yusha holds Alan's letter. Evan watches cautiously, sensing a terrifying aura from her. The mana radiating off her, she's not human, and her emotions completely gone. Yusha's voice cuts through the silence. You said Mr. Allen sent this letter. Yes, Evan answers carefully. Her tone sharpens. Then why didn't he want me by his side? Evan freezes as bloodlust fills the room. He can barely breathe. She's manifesting mana like a master-level mage. In a flash of memory, he recalls Alan's words. It's not yet time. He stammers. He said it's just timing. It's not yet time. Yusha blinks, then smiles. I see. This is a promise only Master and I would know. Her expression shifts to a chilling grin as energy crackles around her. I get it now, she whispers, delighted. That's when she's officially revealed. Yusha, Sin of Wrath, daughter of monsters, the Bloody Queen. Back at the manor, Alan lies in bed under the soft blue glow of the moon. I've managed to extend my luxurious life a little longer, he murmurs, curling under his sheets. Looking up, he smiles faintly. Even the moon's cheering me on, time to work on the next one. He drifts into sleep, completely unaware of the storm his plan has already set in motion. Alan was in the library when a book smacked him in the head. He ignored the sting and muttered that the knock wasn't the problem. Searching for clues about the third boss was giving him a headache. Evan burst in, breathless and excited. Young Master, we rescued the second child you mentioned. Alan didn't look up at first. He shuffled through pages with a blank expression. Have you? Treat the child kindly, he asked. Before Evan could reply, the library doors exploded inward with a kick. A smug voice called out, If it is Alan, Tonio Palacio stepped in, boot raised, taunting the illiterate noble who dared hold a book. Alan pretended Tonio wasn't there, but the insults kept coming. Tonio slapped Alan's head repeatedly, sneering about his recent studies. Alan thought about how annoying Tonio always was, and how the original Alan must have put up with it, then forced himself to play the part. If you need the library, I'll leave, he bowed. Tonio planted his foot on Alan's head and crowed that the boy finally knew his place. A knife thudded into the wall and another voice cut through, calm, dangerous. I don't want blood first thing in the morning. Get lost. Leo Palacio stepped forward, knife at Tonio's throat. The brothers exchanged venomous barbs. Tonio reeked of drugs, Leo snarled, and their rivalry filled the room. Alan slipped away while they argued, thinking the Palacio brothers were even worse in person than in the game. The two eldest fought for control of the family, the prostitution king, and the head of a sprawling drug cartel, so Alan decided it wasn't worth tangling with them. He and Evan left through the front door and breathed easier outside. Alan clenched his fist and vowed to enjoy being a weak, useless child if it meant staying alive. Back at the manor, Evan reported that the rescued child hadn't seemed ordinary. Alan turned this over in his mind. He wasn't just unusual, he was cataclysmic. The boy they'd pulled from the illegal slave market was Deus Macalian, the second boss in psychedelia, destined to become the sin of sloth, an unstoppable force who would one day raise kingdoms and drown the sky in blood. Alan had emphasized to Evan that they must be gentle with Deus. Despite the title Sin of Sloth, Deus in the game had been terrifyingly industrious and cruel, repaying debts and wrongs in ruthless measures. Alan sipped his tea, disturbed by how vividly he remembered the violence. "It's not yet time," he repeated. The letter he'd sent to Yusha was part of a plan. Keep the child safe for now, nurture him away from the path that led to slaughter. We cut to the orphanage grounds where children laughed and played, but one boy stood apart, scarred and hollow-eyed, radiating a chill that made the hair rise on Evan's arms. Yusha approached, smiling slightly as she recognized him. "You're broken," she said softly, touching the traces of abuse on his body. She praised the moon's choice and coaxed power into the boy, crimson mana spilling like a blessing and a curse. She promised him vengeance if he stayed loyal, and purple energy threaded into his skull as the boy clutched his head. Before leaving, she performed a playful flourish and decided to send a small greeting back to Alan, an oath wrapped in cruelty and comfort both. Alan was still hunched over books when Evan slammed a tome down and shouted that there was big trouble. Tonio was dead. The funeral that followed felt grotesque, Tonio's corpse draped with flowers while two women giggled at his side like he'd been on a tawdry date. Alan watched, nodding the Palacio family's rot in grim silence. This accidental fall did not match his memories of the game. In that version, Leo had crowed about finally killing the vermin and seizing the title of Count. Now, real life imitated the worst of the storyline as Leo consolidated power and absorbed the drug operations. Alan steeled himself. One more sin resolved, one less apocalypse to fear. A year passed. With succession settled and Leo in control, the county quieted, but Alan's plan moved forward. He and Yusha exchanged letters. Staying in contact seemed useful. Her note described the children, Yana's hide-and-seek skills, Hidden's cleverness, and Deus's quiet growth and eerie puppeteering. The orphanage's sponsor list grew month by month, which both unnerved and reassured Alan. Evan Midbite mentioned that the Information Guild had called with a lead on the third boss. An ancient book might point him to the next target. Alan felt a rare ripple of optimism. Everything's going smoothly, he thought. A peaceful evening. Night came, and with it, blood on the cobblestones near a drug distribution site in Margate. Two low-level gangsters walked, boasting about the Palacio family's generosity and their swelling ranks. Then they stopped, staring at bodies strewn across the path. Men screamed that their hands were moving on their own. One cut his throat, another plunged a dagger into himself. As bodies fell, a cloaked figure watched, the boy Deus working with Yusha. Deus's fingers were strung with purple mana like puppet cords. He moved others as if they were marionettes. "Does this help your revenge?" he asked. "It creates space for him to return," Yusha replied, calm and assured. "We can't leave this place shabby for when he arrives." Together they vanished in a flash of light, the ground scorched with a crest that glowed like the blue moon. Yusha's final words hung in the air. Everything will proceed according to his will. It's been 2 years since I started exchanging letters with Yusha. Evan dragged himself down the hall, shoulders sagging, muttering, "Where is it?" Before long, he collapsed onto the grass and groaned. "I'm back. You were in the backyard." Alan, lounging without a care, waved casually. "Oh, hey, Evan." Struggling to lift his head, Evan wheezed. "The 5th child has officially been delivered to the orphanage." He forced a weak thumbs up before flopping flat again. Alan covered his mouth, speechless. "In that time, I've also rescued the remaining 3 sins," he thought. "Eat," Alan told him. Damn you," Evan groaned. Alan noted to himself that hunting down greed, the 3rd sin, had been a chore, but putting Evan to work while relying on his game knowledge ended up paying off. He tossed pastries toward Evan, who jumped after them like a starved wolf, even catching a few between his fingers like a trained killer. "Good work," Alan said. "You can rest now." Evan chomped down, speaking through crumbs. "Is that it for the orphanage-related tasks?" "Yep, that's everything." Evan sprawled out and exhaled with relief. Thank the heavens, aren't you happy, young master? I am, Alan replied. You don't look it. Alan pointed to his face. I'm smiling right now. His expression didn't move an inch. He forced the tiniest twitch of a smile that barely counted as emotion. Let's just say that you are, Evan sighed. Alan lay back beside him, stretching. I didn't expect things to go this smoothly, he thought. The bosses of psychedelia became the Five because of their horrific pasts. Even saving them before their tragedies happened felt like a gamble. I honestly thought I'd find them already broken. How's the orphanage doing? Alan asked. Evan handed him a letter. Same as always, everything's running well. They looked like shattered dolls at first, but they've brightened up a lot. Yeah, Alan raised a brow. Then I guess we won't need to hire another caretaker. He opened the letter. I didn't think Yusha would be this reliable, he thought. Is it because her backstory makes her sentimental toward children? Maybe I'd just annoy her if I interfered too much. He scratched his head. She's surprisingly kind in some ways. Evan leaned in. Does it say anything important? Parts of the letter showed the kids playing around peacefully, along with Yusha's notes. Everyone's doing well. A few are growing quickly. You don't need to worry about Deus at all. And don't stress about the others either. Alan smiled slightly. I'm just glad they're growing up healthy. He thought environment really is everything. Evan asked, so when do you plan on meeting them? You always say the time will come. Alan looked away. Oh, about that. I don't plan on meeting them. Ever, he admitted silently. I mean, sure, staying close would be nice, but their in-game personalities. Absolutely not. Maybe since I saved them early, it won't be as bad, but I'm still terrified. And maybe in 5 years, Alan muttered, covering his mouth. I see, Evan replied. Alan then clapped his hands together. Anyway, I need to develop skills to protect myself in this cursed dark fantasy world. Magic requires talent, and this body is perfect for it. But have you heard of the Blue Moon? Evan asked. Alan blinked. Blue what? He focused. Never heard of them. It's a group that's become famous lately. They're wiping out criminal rings. They're taking out trash. Nice. Never heard of them though, so they're probably short-lived, Alan thought aloud. Evan's voice cracked. I heard they even kill nobles. Alan's face twisted. Evan, sleep in the room next to mine from now on. At the orphanage. All right, let's go over the Blue Moon's weekly report, someone announced. What about the North? Yusha asked. A fox-eared girl. I took all the slave traders' heads. They couldn't even guess my eye color. Your outfits are perfect. She was the sin of pride, Sialren. The corpses melted, the green-haired girl added. This was Ren, the sin of greed. A silver-haired boy sitting on the stairs yawned. I finished the South, cleaned out the human testing grounds, turned those Avalon scumbags into minced meat. He grinned. He was Raiden, sin of mysophobia. Yusha nodded. Good. Everything will unfold according to his will. We exist for the great moon. We are the Blue Moon. But her smile faded. However, we have a problem. What problem? Everything's going perfectly. Deus stood up. Isn't the head of Avalon the eldest son of the home where he resides? He held up a paper. I found a dangerous order while cleaning up the South. Apparently, the eldest son is targeting his greatness. What? Yusha's voice cracked in anger. She snatched the letter and read it. After the Count dies, slowly poison him until he perishes. Her mana flared violently. She crushed the letter in her hand. 2 years later, Count Palacio died. Outwardly, the cause was heart failure, but everyone knew it was overdose. Leo didn't blink. What? The Blue Moon struck again. A guard nodded. Yes, sir, they attacked last night. Was everyone wiped out again? Alan watched from afar. They're getting more cautious of the Blue Moon. And so the Count's death ended with no mourning, just silence. But Leo's stare felt like a blade against Alan's throat as he and Evan left the funeral. Evan asked, What are your plans now, young master? At this rate, that asshole, the first young master will become, wait, why are there bags everywhere? Alan tightened a strap. Pack your things, we're running. Sorry, Evan froze. You're actually leaving. Not entirely, we're heading down. Down as in Rodmill. Exactly, a small southern town, been planning it. From afar, a shadowy figure watched them. Leo Palacio's face twisted with fury. Eggs sizzled, toast flipped. Alan cooked happily, savoring the aroma. Evan carried 2 jars to the table. 3 days later, Alan returned. His expression soured. "I can't believe I'm back here. He died already. Why earlier than before?" He looked over the body. "A stab to the heart. Who killed him?" Alan turned to a guard to ask, but the man recoiled in terror. "Sorry, I shouldn't look directly at you." "What's wrong with him?" Alan wondered. Evan tugged his sleeve. "Young master, did you find anything out?" Evan leaned in and whispered, "Yes. Are you the one who made Avalon disappear overnight?" Alan blinked. Is that what they're thinking?" "Not long ago, on the day Alan left for Rodmill. Young master, wouldn't it be better to head to the city instead?" Evan asked. Alan paused, thinking for a moment. Nope, no, never. Rodmill is the final stop I planned, he said. I'm going there to save the great sins from disaster and stop the world from collapsing. Rodmill isn't even part of the original storyline, and the Palacio Villa is there. It's the perfect place for a noble to live a relaxing life. I'll just take it slow. Do nothing. Enjoy peace. Everything happens for a reason." Evan sighed. "You can't fool me anymore. You only talk like that when you don't want to be bothered." Alan nodded proudly. "Good things are great." Meanwhile, a hand gripped the balcony railing. Leo. His expression twisted with irritation. "Should I kill him or not? Honestly, it doesn't matter. I was planning to poison him after Father died anyway. But since he said he's going to quietly head to the border, I've lost the reason to kill him. Is it because things with Avalon aren't going well? No. He just annoys me." Leo clenched the railing. "Allman, follow the carriage." Allman, the assassin-like man behind him, asked, "Do you mean kill him?" Leo blinked. "Since when does Allman question my orders?" He's never talked back. He shrugged it off. "Just do what I tell you." A sharp pain hit him. Leo gasped as a blade pierced his chest. "How dare you betray me?" Leo croaked. The man replied calmly, "War was fun while it lasted. The assassin, it was hidden, a member of the Blue Moon. We follow the creed of the Red Moon. As the Blue Moon is that man's sword, it's only natural I move by his will," Hidden said coldly. His eyes hardened. "But if anyone threatens the Great Moon," he drove the blade deeper, tearing through Leo with a brutal strike. "I act on my own." Blood spilled across the floor as Leo clung to life. "That's why I waited for you to say those words," Hidden continued. 2 years, and it took you this long. Your subordinates won't let you escape," Leo rasped. Hidden smirked. "With your final words, Avalon will vanish from this continent. How unfortunate. The Great Moon even gave you a chance." He leapt from the balcony into the light, disappearing. The next morning, Alan stretched. "Good morning. Rodmill is heaven. Another peaceful day. I eat when I want, sleep when I want. This is peak noble life." He froze. "Should I open a toast stand?" Evan burst in. "Young master, a letter for you." Alan grabbed it. "What is it?" He dropped his food. "Due to the death of Leo Palacio, we request the immediate return of Alan Palacio." His expression twisted. "My free trial of paradise lasted 4 days. And so, Alan returned to the Palacio estate." "Why are they looking at me like that?" Alan whispered. "Young master," Evan said slowly, "when did you become the shadow leader?" Alan stared speechless. "Why am I the villain in this mess?" Evan explained. "You're the only one who benefits. After we left the estate, Leo was murdered. And now you have the perfect alibi to become the next count." Alan's jaw dropped. Evan continued proudly. "Avalon is gone too, so nothing stands in your way. That basically makes you the county's hidden leader." "Ta-da." Alan glared at him. "You're enjoying this, aren't you? And what's with your clothes?" He muttered to himself, "Where do I even begin?" No organization could wipe out a major underworld figure instantly. Except him. Isn't there a group that hunts other groups? "Are you talking about the Blue Moon?" Evan asked. "Yeah, maybe they're behind this." "No," Evan said. "The Information Guild confirmed the Blue Moon wasn't involved. They always leave a mark instead of bodies, but Avalon's members were killed by a sword, brutally." Alan paled. "So now I'm the secret mastermind who killed a sword master." He gulped. "The Blue Moon doesn't even appear in the game story. They disappear before the plot begins. So who did this?" "Meanwhile, any traces?" Yusha asked. The green-haired girl shook her head. "Nothing left behind." The fox-eared girl twirled her cutlass. Same here, just corpses. Deus returned. 486 Avalon soldiers remain. The silver-haired boy added, like you said, boss, I cut them all down. Yusha smiled. Good, perfect. And just like that, Avalon, a massive organization that once dominated the Asteria kingdom, fell in only 5 days. The silver-haired boy frowned. Though the cleanup isn't fully done. Yusha's eyes narrowed. Explain. He handed her a document. I found this with the nobles connected to Avalon. The Altia dukedom had particularly deep ties. Yusha stared at the papers, then looked up. Their auras flared. You already know what I'm about to say, she murmured. The silver-haired boy nodded. I'll take care of it quietly. Yusha finally calmed herself and asked the green-haired girl, one last thing. The Information Guild is clean, right? Yes. This situation is being handled separately from the Blue Moon. Deus added, all the guilds are saying the same thing. They're calling it the Hell Sword made by a sword master. The green-haired girl asked, should I keep tracking their movements? Yes, Yusha replied firmly. This matter must never reach his ears. I've said it countless times, you all know this. Deus frowned, but since that person's family was targeted first. This wasn't an order, Yusha cut in. We are swords. A sword doesn't think for itself, right? She reminded them, the Blue Moon only moves when commanded. Remember that. That man knows everything. Never disappoint him. Deus watched her silently. I don't get it. Someone as powerful as Yusha, feeling restless just because she's afraid of being discovered. He nodded, understood, everything for the Great Moon for them. Alan lay sprawled across his desk, buried under piles of paperwork. No more of this, he groaned. After the funeral, it was a full month of non-stop duties. I'm exhausted. Aren't nobles supposed to laze around and eat all day? He sighed. Even though I made enemies, Leo's death wasn't supposed to happen for another 6 years. But because the order of the brothers' deaths changed, the family's entire backlog fell on me. Young master, someone called. As several men entered his office with even more documents, Alan stared at the mountain of papers, dead inside. Why is everyone working so hard? When the Count was here, you all slacked off. The staff whispered nervously, is he angry? We need to work harder. I don't want to die. Alan blinked. Are they being this strict because of the rumor that I'm the secret mastermind? Why won't you come when I call for you? Someone yelled from outside. A former slaver who now just wanted to work quietly. Alan groaned. I wish they'd handle things on their own without needing me. Evan entered. Young master, honestly, it's shocking. His face twisted in disbelief. You reached the 2nd tier after only 2 years of teaching yourself poison craft. You're incredibly gifted. When did you get this skilled? We see Alan practicing magic with surprising precision. Normally, it takes 4 years of direct instruction to reach the 2nd tier, Evan explained. Magic also requires natural talent. Alan nodded proudly. Yeah, I guess I'm pretty decent. But inside, he admitted, I practiced so hard for self-defense because I felt uneasy. To do that, I had to learn fine mana control. But what good is it if my ability is half-baked? I've tried every type of magic in this world. It was exciting at first if my plan worked. Nothing dangerous would happen and I'd learn at my own pace. But now, I realize the truth. My mana haul is tiny. Pathetically tiny. His eyes watered. Nothing is working out. He recalled the basics. Innate mana capacity is like an athlete's weight class, fixed. No amount of training changes it. And his, very, very small. If nothing else works, there is one method left. Evan interrupted. Oh right, your invitation to the ball finally arrived. A ball, Alan stiffened. At the ballroom. The hall was stunning. Alan and Evan were dressed elegantly, but Alan already looked drained. This is the standard aristocratic ball in southern Asteria, a networking event for nobles. Since I'll become a count soon, I should use this chance to make connections. What are you doing? Evan asked, seeing Alan shift into serious mode. Building relationships is crucial if I want a peaceful future, Alan thought. But the nobles ran away the moment they saw him. Alan waved politely at one man, who panicked and sprinted off. Evan chuckled. Don't be upset. Upset? No, I expected this, Alan thought. He excused himself. Evan, I'll see you later. They looked down on me for being low class and unrefined. Unlike the era of my great-grandfather, the current Palacio family is full of Eastern troublemakers. But I didn't come here unprepared. He picked up a wine glass. Time to use the social skill I practiced in secret. Aloud, he said to the lady beside him, "This wine's aroma suits you. The scent is especially distinct. I'd love to have a few bottles at home." He gave his most gentle smile. The lady panicked, bowed repeatedly, and fled. "I'll tell my father to prepare them at once." "Wait, that's not what I meant," Alan muttered. Behind him, the nobles whispered. Did he just blackmail her into giving him rare regional wine? Evan tapped his shoulder, amused. She must be shy, Alan lied to himself. Evan smirked. Your loot pile is growing again. A Palladian steed, Pinia citrus tea, Valanda metalwork, and now Malentino wine. Alan leaned against the wall, depressed. I studied etiquette too. Palacio really is more notorious than I thought. And because of the rumor that I got rid of those monstrous brothers, everyone avoids me. My social life is doomed. They're avoiding me even more now. He sighed deeply. Evan, I'm going to get some fresh air. From a distance, a beautiful woman watched him. Alan stepped onto the balcony. Where did everything go wrong? Excuse me, a small voice called. Hello there, may I have a moment? Alan blinked. Someone talking to me. He looked around, no one. Then he looked down. A little girl, Gloria, the third daughter of Duke Altia. Altia, that explains everything. The Altia family was one of the top 3 shadow powers of psychedelia, northern troublemakers. No chance she was an ordinary child. But why don't I remember her from the game? I don't think she appears anywhere. Gloria spoke clearly. I'll be direct. Please lend me your strength. Alan stared down at her, unimpressed. I'm going to be assassinated soon, she said calmly. Alan stood expressionless as he listened, thinking to himself. She survived only because she was her father's mistress's daughter, but Duke Altia's condition is worsening. The girl's voice cut through his thoughts. My older sisters will kill me soon. A mutual downfall situation, Alan realized. No wonder I didn't remember her. She must have died early and never appeared in the game. She continued, with your strength, Lord Alan, you could. I'll have to decline, he interrupted immediately. Panicking, she added, I'm not asking for help for free. If you save me, I'll return half of the Altia family's fortune to you. Alan didn't even blink. I'll be taking my leave. As he walked off, he thought, I do sympathize with her, but I can barely protect myself. Giving her hope would be cruel. Even if I wanted to help, I'm nowhere near the legendary figure the rumors make me out to be. Gloria remained frozen on the balcony, despair written all over her face. Alan paused, sighed, and glanced back. Still, I wish you luck. I hope you find a reliable ally, he said before heading downstairs. High above, members of Crest Moon watched. Deus murmured, It seems Altia has approached the Great Moon. Should I relay his kind wishes to the Red Moon as well? The green-haired girl shook her head. No need. According to intel, she's the only Altia not tied to Avalon. She's the one Raiden isn't targeting. That simplifies things, Deus replied. The other Altias will be handled. Understood. We'll proceed according to the Red Moon's command. Our focus is to block any information so the Avalon case doesn't reach him. Meanwhile, Alan wandered alone. Why is it so empty around me? Do I have some kind of barrier repelling people? Hello? A woman's voice greeted from the shadows. Alan brightened. That was for me. Finally, maybe a noble wants to talk for once. Yes, hello, he answered politely. A stunning woman stepped forward. Wait again. Another shadow player. I recognize that face, of course. No one approaches me unless they're trouble. Greetings, Lady Zenonia. Oh my, you know of me, she smiled. Of course, you're quite well known. In the Asteria Kingdom, 3 major shadow families existed. Altia of the North, Palacio of the East, and Zenonia, the West's notorious schemers. Lady Zenonia chuckled. Am I truly that famous? She was Calia Zenonia, the eldest daughter. If Calia Palacio ran a gang, Zenonia operated like a refined criminal syndicate. Alan panicked internally. I need useful connections to live a peaceful, noble life. Things are already half falling apart. Getting involved with her is a guaranteed disaster. You're very beautiful, my lady, Alan said calmly. Oh my, thank you. I'd love to talk more. How about it? He forced a smile. I would love to, but there are too many eyes on us right now. Please let me go in peace, he begged mentally. You're just like the rumors say, she teased. I look forward to seeing you again. Huh, what's that supposed to mean? Alan muttered. Elsewhere, the green-haired girl reported. The Avalon case information is safely contained. Deus replied, but there's a new issue. Someone is still watching him. We're being tailed. Running across the ceiling beams, she said. There are no new orders. Keep observing, then eliminate them. Young master, are you sure this is the right place? Evan asked. Is this really the canyon you meant? It's midday but feels like midnight in here. Alan clenched his fist. I finally found it, my real goal. The terrain matches perfectly. This has to be it. If it's empty again, I might actually cry. No, this time it's real. They walked along a stone pathway covered in runes. In the game it was easy to find, Alan thought. The only reason I came south under the excuse of attending the ball was this labyrinth. The labyrinth of whispers. Solve all 8 rooms' riddles, and a powerful artifact awaited. Thankfully, Alan had every route memorized. They reached the enormous doors. To see it in person feels surreal. I've cleared this dungeon dozens of times, but the real thing is on another level. It's like this canyon was man-made. Evan asked, how do you even know about this place? I've come here often, Alan answered confidently. You've been here often, Evan blinked. Alan grinned. Just kidding, I have my ways. Evan grimaced. Please don't joke with that expression. Above them, winged beasts battled massive golem hands. If you mess up a riddle, Evan warned, those things come down on you mercilessly. Alan ignored him, lost in concentration. How does he stay so calm? Evan wondered. We've worked together for years and I still can't figure him out. His actions never follow any pattern. He barely leaves the estate yet knows everything. Oh, got it right. Alan pointed at the mechanism. It only opens once the locking gear finishes. A golem hand crushed another monster overhead. Evan sighed. Even so, I follow this strange young master because everything he does ends well. It's opening, Alan said. Evan panicked. What is he planning this time? The door creaked open violently. I knew it would be rough, but seeing it in person, I almost snapped my neck trying not to watch, Alan thought. Inside, the chamber glittered with rare treasure. Yeah, let's just take that black ring and go, Alan said. Evan held up gold bars. That thing, it looks the most useless. Alan slipped the ring on. It's a little big, but taking anything else will only cause trouble. Leave the rest. Finally, I obtained the oath of restraint. No worries, Evan said shakily. Nothing dangerous on the way back. Sure, Alan replied dryly. But then Evan froze. Young master, you already knew, didn't you? The rock piles began to move, revealing themselves as golems. Evan drew his sword. An unknown enemy. Worst case scenario. If only we can get young master out. I'll handle this, Alan said. What? Evan barked. Alan stepped forward as the golems charged. Whatever you're planning, we should escape, Evan shouted. Too late. I invoke the oath of restraint, Alan commanded. Dark energy exploded from the ring, stunning the golems. A mysterious voice echoed. O fragment who inherits the will of Nyakula, speak your 2 restrictions. In the game, this appeared as a choice window. A hazy, divine face materialized before him. The oath of restraint, an artifact that grants immense power in exchange for self-imposed limitations. Alan replied first. Speak, Nyakula said. I will always perform the hand signs of Babylonia when using magic. What do you seek through this restriction? The ability to bend the laws of the world a little further. Granted. Second. Speak. When using magic, I will strictly chant the words of Babylonia, and through this, greater power to defy the world's laws. Nyakula paused, almost baffled. Did I mess up? I copied the exact skill details. Using both hand sign and chant restrictions gives the highest possible attack power. I memorized every combination. This has to work. Granted, she said at last. O human who remembers the gestures and mysteries of a forgotten god, I offer my gratitude to you who inherit the will. Inherit the will? What is she talking about? The ring on Alan's thumb glowed white. It's being absorbed. Looks like the restriction went through, Alan said. I shall be watching you, inheritor. Nyakula whispered as she vanished. "Young master," Evan screamed. "Second-tier magic won't cut it." Alan didn't even flinch. Mana gathered in his hand. The lightning sphere formed, tiny, weak. "Even with all my mana, this is my limit. No matter how much I train, this pathetic ball is the best I can do." But he smiled, "Which is why it's time to test this." The mana flared violently. "This restriction, and the price I paid." The sphere glowed brighter, blinding in the darkness. Alan whispered his first command, "Refraction." Mana burst around him like a rising tide. He spoke again, "Repulsion." Blue lightning crackled to life, gathering in his hands. With each chant, the glowing sphere swelled larger, 10 times its original size. Alan moved his hands in a precise pattern. Line of diffraction. His expression hardened as he unleashed the lightning he'd built up. The beam tore toward the golems at a speed Evan couldn't even track. For a heartbeat, the world went silent. Then the golems exploded into dust, leaving nothing but shattered stone. Evan stood frozen. "What the hell?" He stepped forward. "Young master, have you been hiding your strength from me?" Alan shook his head. "Not at all. I've been a mercenary for 15 years. I've never seen anything like that. Are you sure that was second circle magic?" "Yes," Alan replied calmly. Internally, though, he was just as shocked. It wasn't like this in the game. In Psychedelia's turn-based battle system, magic could be boosted each turn with hand signs or chants. This time, Alan thought, I stacked 4 chants in one hand sign, 5 turns worth of boosts on a basic chain lightning spell. Because of his restraints, he had to use hand signs and incantations for every spell, so each chant must have amplified the spell again and again. Even so, the outcome stunned him. I didn't expect second circle magic to wipe out golems in one hit. That was excessive, even for me. Evan slumped to the ground. "Well, we made it out, barely." He groaned. "Honestly, this maze is more tiring than the monsters who created this miserable place." Alan didn't answer. He was deep in thought. "Now that I remember, people didn't always call it the Maze of Whispers. Players renamed it the Maze of Palion after some guy on the community site mapped everything out." "A guy named Palion created it," Alan murmured. Evan blinked. "Pardon, what did you just say?" Alan ignored him, grabbed him by the arm and pulled him forward. "Let's return to the east. Thanks for your work these last 3 weeks. There's something I want to do once we're back." Evan blinked at him. "Young master, you're more dedicated than you look." Meanwhile, Alan kept analyzing. If the hand sign matches the spell's element, the spell gets stronger. If the chant matches, its properties change. That's how the game system worked. But unlike the game, where the visuals never changed, the spell's form actually shifted each time I chanted. Maybe my mana pool is small, but my control is exceptional. If so, I might be able to observe every transformation. I'll have to test it once I recover. Still, everything ended well. A green-haired girl observed from afar before heading back into the labyrinth. Standing before the massive doors, she read the ancient script. The era of the forgotten outer gods. Glyphs of the Elenif Empire. She removed her cloak. "For my friend who shall remain alone because of that coward Palion," she whispered, tracing the runes. Her thoughts drifted. The one who halted the invasion of the black creatures. The man who stood victorious against the Alaculaka, devourer of hearts. The brilliant emperor, Palion the Great. She knew these things because she had been born with the ancient library. A gift granted only to those assigned a monumental mission. She remembered Alan's casual remark. "A guy named Palion created them. I knew he was special. The Bloody Queen follows him, something seen only in the oldest records. But I didn't expect the Great Moon to be a friend of Palion." And the phrase Alan whispered. She had never encountered it in the ancient library. Just what is he? The Red Moon was right. A blush crept onto her cheeks. "How embarrassing, I've been following orders blindly." Her smile faded as she sensed someone behind her. "You're here." Another cloaked figure stepped forward. "Did you get the information?" "No," Deus answered coldly. "The Dark One is dead, his head twisted in midair." "We'll have to report this for processing," she replied. The two leapt into the night, returning to their base. Zenonia County. Kalia lounged in her luxurious room. "So it wasn't just a rumor," she whispered. "Those eyes cold as the abyss." She smirked. "Famous me." Yes, Count Zenonia is powerful, but I don't attend social gatherings. And he still called me famous. Isn't that interesting, father? A lifeless man sat at a desk behind her, eyes empty, body stiff. The Count, her father, a puppet. She snapped her fingers. The puppet continued its work without reacting. No one knows I turned him into this so I could run the household myself, she murmured. But how did Alan figure it out? She replayed their meeting in her mind. He even noticed the spies I planted on him. A panicked servant ran up. Miss Kalia, your room, you need to see it. Inside, a corpse lay sprawled across the floor. Judging from his seal not activating, she said, he didn't reveal anything. Someone had deliberately placed the body in her room. She chuckled. So, they found my weakness the moment they met me, huh? Meanwhile, Alan and Evan, completely oblivious, rode their carriage home. Back at the Altia ducal estate, Loria stood by her window, deep in thought. As expected, he's not someone to underestimate, she murmured. The distinguished one of the underworld, eyes as cold as my father's, the kind of man I should never turn into an enemy. He had been her last lifeline, but he wouldn't accept a one-sided deal, especially now that her siblings had stripped her of all authority and wealth. Timalian, the eldest son, Marian, the eldest daughter, Piran, the second daughter, Keeg, the second son. Each one had robbed her blind. Now she had nothing. She had survived this long only because of her father's affection, but even that was running out. Suddenly, shouts filled the hallway. Lady Loria, the youngest lady, has returned. Lady Piran and Lord Keegati, they've taken their own lives. What? Loria gasped. Those two would stab their own family without hesitation, but they took their own lives. Impossible. Then she asked sharply, what about Timalian and Marian? The maid swung the doors open. Lord Timalian and Lady Marian, they have both been found dead. Loria stood speechless. Outside, high above the estate, a silver-haired figure moved silently in the air. Targets eliminated, he said calmly. A member of Crest Moon. And then he disappeared into the night. Chaos erupted in the halls. Servants panicking, but Loria stayed frozen. Only one thought echoed in her mind. Alan's words that night. Good things will happen. She trembled. The true mastermind behind the Palacio household. The man who hid his claws until just the right moment. This is what he meant. Just like that, she had become the sole surviving heir of the ducal family. Her shaking lips curled slightly. What kind of monstrous devil have I made a pact with? But it's too late now. I chose this path. She swallowed as a dark thought surfaced. What happens to those who betray him? There are already so many examples. She knew she had no choice but to move forward. 2 months later, a butler arrived at Palacio Estate. I bring this under the Duke of Altia's orders. Alan blinked. Duke Altia. Evan examined the box beside the butler and gasped. Wait, this is Cernant's wine. A single bottle costs thousands of gold. I never thought I'd see one in person. Inside was a card. With respect, Loria Altia. Alan frowned. So Loria prepared this, not the Duke. But why send something like this? I couldn't even help her properly. He looked at the butler. Are you sure this is for me? Yes, sir, the butler replied. Her Grace prepared it herself and instructed me to deliver it personally. Her Grace, Alan echoed. Meaning, Loria became the Duke. Inside the Altia office, Loria stretched over her desk, surrounded by documents. 2 months passed so fast, she sighed. After Father's funeral, I officially inherited the title during the succession ceremony. She looked around the office. I wasn't even allowed to enter this room before. Her siblings' death had happened so suddenly, yet she was never once suspected. She had an airtight alibi. She was at the ball that night. At that time, my secret organization had already been wiped out by my siblings. When I returned home, I was completely powerless. Only later did she understand what had really happened. He refused the deal outwardly and acted indifferent, but he cleaned up everything behind the scenes. She rubbed her temples. Just how far ahead did he plan? I didn't even tell him about Father's funeral. I didn't want to disturb him. The truth was obvious. Alan had helped her because Altia held a place in whatever long-term plan he was weaving. Even after merging every subordinate organization under Altia, I still can't compare to the strength he's hiding. Meaning, he must need something from me. Something Altia can provide. Palacio, a major figure in the underworld who rose purely through business. If there's one thing I can offer that he can't acquire on his own, she whispered, it's the ability to manipulate politics from the shadows. She rolled up her sleeves. From now on, I need to focus. The distinguished one will reach out soon. I hope he liked my gift of gratitude. Back at Palacio Estate, the butler left. Alan stared at the gift. So she was threatened with death, and now she's the Duke. Something feels off. Evan watched him. What's going on in that head of yours now? Alan didn't answer. Something isn't adding up. A few months later, 5 years before the original story begins. Young master, Count, Evan corrected himself. Alan sighed. The succession ceremony isn't done yet, but I guess it's fine since a year has passed. He slumped slightly. I never planned to become the Count. So much for my peaceful life. Still, he had adjusted. Being a noble came with perks. Work balanced well with rest. Evan handed him a letter. This came from Yusha. Alan nodded. By the way, did you find anything on the assassins who killed Leo? Nothing yet, Evan said. But the Information Guild is still investigating. He sat down. So what's your goal now? I doubt it's revenge. Alan considered. Almost every deviation from the original game was probably caused by his presence. I'll just prepare for anything unexpected. Evan grinned. You sounded like a real Count for a second. Alan groaned. Right. He opened the letter. Yusha's monthly report. Have you been well? We're the same as always. Everyone enjoying their hobbies. Deus's puppet shows are practically professional now. Xiaoring plays games nonstop with her friends. Rin reads quietly while crafting things. Raiden tends his garden every morning. Their routine had become familiar and comforting, even though he had never seen their faces. Knowing they were growing up well made him smile every time. Alan suddenly froze. Now that I think about it, how old are they? Evan stared. That was sudden. They're old enough to enter society now. Some already left the orphanage. The ones you rescued are around that age. Alan panicked slightly. Oh, already. Yusha's letter continued. Thank you for raising us. The 5 deadly sins. Alan exhaled. Right, it's time to let them go. Evan nearly dropped his cup. Really? You put them all together because of their trauma. Isn't it too early? There's no reason anymore, Alan said. They're grown now. They should focus on their future. I cared for them so they wouldn't awaken as deadly sins. They should be fine, right? Now that they're healthy, it's time, he said aloud. Evan nodded slowly. Each sin had a talent tied to their original boss form. Yusha faith, Deus sword, Rin knowledge, Xiaoring combat, Raiden apostle. If they use their talents well, they'll do great, Alan concluded. Simple plan, and while I'm at it, I should prepare a gift for each of them. Winter at Palacio Estate. All done. Evan shot up from his bed in terror. What? Maybe I'll get something back when they're all successful. Children, read my letters and go change the world. Crest Moon headquarters. The orders have arrived, Yusha said. This time, however, the letters were addressed individually. Some celebrated, some were confused, others shivered at what waited inside. Yusha said, before anything else, we should read the earlier letters. His instructions are always high-level. Xiaoring asked, can we really read them now? You were the only one allowed before. Her eyes brightened with excitement. Yusha replied, since he's assigned missions to each of us, it means he decided it was time for everyone to see them. The first letter began casually. How have you been? It seems you've made some talented friends. If you need anything, just tell me. Xiaoring squinted. This is an order. The green-haired girl shrugged. Feels like regular small talk to me. Exactly, Yusha said. He hid orders inside normal conversation from the start. Look at this. She held up the next letter. Yusha, how are you doing? I'm fine. Today my second brother used me as a chair. Funny, right? I'd like to send you letters sometimes. Write back if that's all right. Also, the child I'm sending this time. Yusha explained. That's where he assigns the elimination target, lays out the mission, and tells us to report after. This next one entrusted the Blue Moon to me. Thanks for writing back. Please update me monthly on the orphanage. I leave it in your hands. Together you'll manage. As you can see, she said, he personally chose each of you. Deus nodded. So it's to prevent information leaks, remembering his first mission. Exactly, Yusha replied. You must interpret every line clearly and execute the task precisely. Deus frowned. Then wouldn't it be better to meet him directly? or use a magic communicator. The silver-haired boy added, yeah, if secrecy is the issue, why letters? Yusha's face turned cold, her voice flat. Do not forget, our only duty is to follow his orders. Deus shivered internally at her unshakable loyalty. I understand. Good, then let's read our orders, Xiaoreng said eagerly. They gathered around, reviewing each letter. Deus read, he told me to head to Kali Burn, the nation of knights. Xiaoreng let out a depressed sigh. The colony, deserts, the silver-haired boy said. Mine says Raxus, the entertainment capital. The green-haired girl added, he directed me to Larthania, the maze city. And mine is the Holy Kingdom Rosario, Yusha said. What you must do is written clearly, yes. Deus answered, I don't know why, but he told me to become a knight. Xiaoreng added, he said the patronage would continue, so not to worry. The green-haired girl said, he marked the locations of our gifts. The silver-haired boy shrugged. We'll see what they are once we get there. Good, Yusha said. But remember this, unless he mentions it first, never speak the name Blue Moon. And with that, the five left their orphanage, the only home they'd ever known. 3 months later, Alan sighed at his desk. As expected, there's nothing here about changing phrases or magic patterns. I'll have to figure it out myself. He looked at Evan. By the way, how's the investigation into Leo's killer going? The Information Guild found nothing, Evan answered. I see, Alan said, though his thoughts were heavier. He considered the situation. The butterfly effect from saving the 5 deadly sins has spiraled. Even Loria, who should die, became Duke Altia, gaining influence in the underworld at frightening speed. Alan finally said, let's drop the investigation. Evan blinked, really. This was one of those times where not knowing was safer. The Information Guild prided itself on finding anything, anywhere. If even they couldn't uncover a clue, digging further would only invite danger. Alan shuddered at the thought. If a precaution leads to death, it's pointless. Secret organizations won't bother me unless I meddle with them first. Tell them to stop searching, he said. All right, Evan nodded. Oh, and more news, Deus was appointed as a knight in Kali Burn. Already good for him. 3 more months later. Count Alan, Evan said. Deus apparently formed an entire knight order. What? Then he must be at least expert level. Sword ranks. Sword user, sword expert, sword master. It hasn't even been that long since he joined, Alan said. People are saying the world might see the 5th Master Knight within the decade, Evan added. The swords of Kali Burn, Alan asked. Yes. Impressive. I'm proud of him, Alan said. 6 months later, 1 year after they left, Evan rushed in again. Count Alan, breaking news. Deus has become a sword of Kali Burn, making him the 5th Master Knight. Alan froze, but only sword masters can earn that title. A sword master of psychedelia is a superhuman who surpasses the aura blade and awakens a unique ability called derivation. You're telling me Deus is already at that level? Well, almost. He hasn't created his derivation yet, but Kali Burn gave him the title anyway. He defeated the 4th sword in a duel, and they recently lost another Master Knight in the Northern War. Alan muttered, the war's been going on for over a decade. Evan continued, most people take 15 years just to realize mana properly. Derivation takes decades. The youngest Master Knight ever was Reinhardt. He was 32. Alan remembered, Reinhardt trained since age 5. It still took him 20 years. And Deus, a boy with 0 sword knowledge, is already catching up. If he's only missing derivation, Alan whispered, then he's already surpassed Reinhardt at this rate. He sighed. Maybe I can leech off him sooner than expected, or maybe not. He noticed a letter sticking out of his book. Evan snorted. Nah, he wouldn't. I only get letters from Yusha, Alan replied. Even after she moved to the Holy Kingdom, her letters kept him updated on the 5 deadly sins. They haven't even seen my face, Alan thought. They could at least thank me for the gifts. I feel kinda bad. He slapped his cheeks lightly. Back to basics. I'm already grateful they haven't destroyed the kingdom after awakening into the 5 deadly sins. As long as they're alive and thriving, I'm good. That evening, Kali Burn capital, Kurtham. Inside the grand mansion of the Solar Eclipse Knights, a man in dark purple armor looked out the window. Deus Macalian, captain of the Solar Eclipse Knights, youngest Master Knight. A woman passed by and waved, Brother, Deus returned a faint smile. A whole year has passed, but thinking back still makes my face burn, he thought. When he lost everything to the black beasts and was left with nothing but hatred, even being saved by the great moon wasn't enough to earn his loyalty. What convinced him was her promise. You will take revenge with your own hands. Serving the blue moon put him through brutal missions and relentless training, but he didn't care. Every operation became another step toward vengeance. Then one day, he received an unexpected personal order. A small hotel in southern Caliburn. I left a gift, go see it. He wasn't excited, just confused, but he went anyway. When he opened the door, he stopped breathing. There, standing in disbelief, was the one thing he thought was lost forever. His sister. Deus sprinted toward her, grabbing her in a desperate embrace. This gift, this family, it's worth more than my life. He held her tightly, tears falling freely, grief, joy, and love tangled into one. Deus remembered the night he lost his entire family, the moment everything in his world shattered. Yet now, standing before him, was the impossible. My little sister, the girl I thought had died, she's alive. Tears rolled down his face as he whispered her name. Silly, what happened to you after I lost you? He wrapped his arms around her trembling shoulders and gently wiped away her tears. The two sat down together, finally sharing the truth neither had been able to speak for years. Silly stared into her tea, voice low. After those things dragged me away, I had to wait for what they called my turn. Her words hung heavy as the scene shifted to cages filled with people, each one waiting for their own grim fate. When it was your turn, she continued, that meant you were next to be killed. A cold image flashed, lifeless bodies on an altar, a dagger dripping with blood, and a cloaked figure watching from the shadows. But somehow, a light helped me escape, she said. I survived, and a few years later, when I was almost sold to a slave merchant, a man named Evan saved me. After that, letters began arriving along with rare medicine. I will continue sending support. You are safe under the name Palacio. Do not worry about your sibling, Alan Palacio. I'm so grateful for everything he's done for me, Silly whispered. Deus froze. He protected you under his own name. How could the great moon know any of this? He had never spoken about his family, not to anyone. Only Yusha had known the black lambs captured him that night. So how? Then he remembered Yusha's words during their escape. The great moon knows everything. The realization hit him like a blade to the heart. Every unanswered question suddenly snapped together like puzzle pieces. Yusha's anxiety, Alan's strange kindness, the hints everyone overlooked, even the moment at the banquet when Alan casually told Loria, good things will happen. Back then, Deus didn't understand. Now he finally did. Alan had known everything from the beginning and had been guiding him quietly from the shadows. Silly called out softly, brother, worried by his silence. Deus rested his hand on her head, thinking about the hatred he had carried for so long. His sword had once moved on its own, hungry for revenge. But now, he realized he still had something priceless, family. Survival itself had been a gift. Yusha's voice echoed in his memory. You'll soon understand why I follow that man. She wasn't just being blindly loyal. Deus understood that now. He read the order Alan had sent him. Head to Caliburn and become a knight. This wasn't a simple command. It was a path, a future. Deus stood firm. I owe him everything. I have to repay him, no matter what. His new goal was clear. Rise to the top of Caliburn, become the master knight, and form a personal order of elite swordsmen. Captain, it's time, the vice captain said. The members of the Solar Eclipse Knights stood at attention as Deus entered the war room. This expedition would be their first true test. Deus placed his hand on his sword. Whatever hardship comes, I'll endure it, until the day I can offer him my gratitude and a reward worthy of what he's done. He raised his blade toward the sky. Prove it under the moon. The Solar Eclipse Knights marched out on their expedition against the barbarians. Meanwhile, back at the Palacio estate, Alan relaxed outside, surrounded by stacks of books. Maybe it's because all my kids have grown up now, he joked to himself. A gust of wind flipped the pages, sending papers flying. No, no, don't run. Alan chased after them in a mild panic. Once he gathered them, he sighed. Why did I write all this in cursive? I'm switching to something readable, starting now. After returning from the labyrinth, Alan had thrown himself into researching something called phase. Each type produced different effects. Refraction alters the shape of magic and expands its range. Repulsion crushes the form during projectile release. Blue light enhances electrical magic. Diffraction lines create piercing effects effects critical hits. Break the rules and the spell collapses. No mismatching phrases. No repeats, no more than 4. Alan scratched his head. With my tiny mana pool, I can only cast 1 spell per day. That's why this took forever. Since the hand signs and phrases of Babylonia were long forgotten in this world, there were no guides, so I had to do everything myself, he grumbled. Still, research had become strangely fun for him. All right, time to see the results of 2 months of work. Alan formed hand signs, not gang signs, though it sure looked like it, as purple electricity swirled in his palm. To destroy the stabilizing point inside the mana sphere, he forced an imbalance, creating sparks. This spell, weak but precise, was called fixation. A glowing orb of violet lightning formed. Compression, he commanded. Then a final word. Breakdown. The sphere twisted, turning into something new. Fleeting bloom. The purple lightning turned blue, shooting upward as a towering tree made of pure mana burst into existence. Alan whistled. So the order matters. When I used breakdown first, it failed completely. A scream rang out behind him. Impossible. Alan turned to see Kalia, and her butler staring at him in shock. Kalia's voice trembled. That was origin magic. The butler looked horrified. Using origin magic means you're on the level of a 7th circle mage. Alan blinked. Origin magic? Me? Wait, what? Kalia and her mage sat quietly in the reception room of Count Palacio's mansion. Lost in thought, she reminded herself why she came here. First, to confirm Palacio's intentions. He held the wild card that could severely damage Zenonia. Second, to gauge the strength of the shadowy organization protecting him, the same force that let him seize control over Palacio himself. Instead, she learned something that could shatter her entire plan. She glanced at her mage. She never imagined she'd see this arrogant man tremble. His name, Viancle, a 5th circle mage banished from the magic tower for inhumane experiments. A man capable of wiping out a division of soldiers without breaking a sweat. Even with his usual cocky behavior toward her, his longtime sponsor, she felt his fear. She had never seen him like this. Was that really origin magic just now? Alan entered, interrupting her thoughts. So what brings you to the county? Kalia apologized for the sudden visit. I've actually been wanting to meet you for a... Alan cut her off. I won't hold it against you, daughter of Zenonia, but let me be clear. What you saw wasn't origin magic. If we're putting labels on things, I'm only at the 2nd circle, and your mage should have noticed my magic had no actual effect. Internally, Alan sighed. Too bad that spell is useless for both offense and defense. Kalia and Viancle both understood the message behind his words. Stay quiet about what you just witnessed. Viancle managed to speak through a trembling voice. You're right, I misjudged it. Kalia stared at him, stunned that he was suddenly being polite. Alan leaned back, relieved. Good. If that misunderstanding is cleared up, then get to the point. Kalia explained she was simply passing through and decided to visit. So you don't really have a reason? Alan asked. No, she admitted. Well, I've got work to do, so I can't sit around too long. Kalia immediately stood and thanked him for meeting her. We'll take our leave. If you ever need someone to talk to, Alan said, visit Duchess Altia. You two would get along. Still pale from fear, Kalia nodded. If you say so, I'll visit her. Moments later, she and Viancle left the estate. Alan and Evan stood at the door watching their carriage roll away. Why would someone from Zenonia, a ruined family from the West, come here? Evan asked. I have no idea, Alan answered. Not even a guess. This is going to be a problem, Alan thought. If rumors spread that I used origin magic, every battle-hungry freak will start hunting me down. And this world is basically a dark fantasy hellscape. As they walked back inside, he continued thinking, I hope they got the message. There's no way Zenonia would actually visit Altia. She's competing in the underworld. Just don't involve me. Inside the carriage, Kalia finally asked, was what Count Palacio used really origin magic? Still shaken, Viancle answered, no. Then why did you react like that? Viancle swallowed. Origin magic is the peak of sorcery. It bends absolute, unchanging laws. Only the greatest mages can wield it. But what the Count used was something else entirely. He continued, his voice cracking at the memory. When I used my observing eye, I saw him tear the canvas of reality itself. He twisted the principles that shouldn't be twisted. He fixed lightning in place, warped it, collapsed the law, and the magic still manifested. He created an impossible miracle. Kalia felt a cold dread crawl down her spine. But what came after? Viankel shook uncontrollably. That was clearly tied to the great forgotten gods. His breathing grew erratic. Stop thinking about it, he told himself. Any more and this will be dangerous. In my younger years, I studied ancient magic deeply enough to be praised as an expert of the forgotten era, he continued. So listen carefully. Do not oppose Count Palacio. Kalia let out a hollow laugh. So you're saying someone insignificant like me shouldn't even try to understand his intentions. Then she remembered Alan's advice to visit Duchess Altia. She realized she'd already become a piece on his board. 5 months later, 2 years after the children left the orphanage, as Alan signed documents, he asked, Evan, any new information, preferably about the children? No news about them, Evan answered. But Zenonia County and Altia Duchy have formed an alliance. Alan froze. What? The top 2 forces in the underworld allied. It's an underworld convention. Outsiders aren't supposed to know, but I'm certain. Alan panicked internally. Great, I ignored the warnings to stay out of this path, and now I'm dealing with some king-tier alliance between masterminds. Is the Asteria kingdom about to fall apart? And did she seriously take my words literally back then? If you need anyone to talk to, echoed in his head. No way. For someone as cold and prideful as Kalia, she wouldn't. But I should prepare just in case. Alan wrote a letter to Kalia. If I came off too blunt, I apologize. I'm simply not good with words. He grimaced. I hope that doesn't sound like an excuse. He handed the letter to Evan. Deliver this to the daughter of Zenonia through the mercenary guild, and keep looking for the children. When he was alone, Alan leaned back. How are Raiden and Sialring doing? Yusha only wrote that they arrived. I hope she isn't dead somewhere. If she found the gift I left, she should rise to the top as the Baba Yaga. He remembered the item, the essence of the Golden Mane tribe, a gauntlet-type artifact that boosts critical rate by 20%. If the Sin of Pride had obtained it, she wouldn't have fallen into corruption. She would have become a great wolfkin. Alan looked out the window. I told her where the hidden treasures were, my emergency stash. She's skilled enough to survive in the nation of fighters. She'll be fine, right? Desert Nation, the trial ends. In a cavern under a crystal blue moon, Sialring stretched and shouted, finally, the trial is over. She had successfully obtained the essence of the Golden Mane tribe. Oh great moon, thank you, she cried. She once believed it was just a legend, but the stories from her childhood were true. A memory surfaced, an elder patting her head. We Wolfkin are the descendants of the greatest beastkin, the Golden Mane tribe. The essence grants strength and authority. Treasure it. Sialring clenched her fist as golden mana swirled around her. She survived a horrific bioexperiment thanks to the great moon's blessing. Now she had the power to avenge her parents, both killed by the Black Dragon. I must repay this gift, she whispered, her voice cold. He doesn't want me to be just another gladiator. I'll become the strongest. I'll rebuild the Golden Mane tribe, gather our scattered kin, and kill the Black Dragon. She stepped out of the cave and stared up at the glowing moon. All of this is for him, she pledged. Let it begin. After 500 years, the Golden Mane tribe would rise again beneath the blue moon.
Please remember to like and subscribe to motivate us to get more chapters out.